Network. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
Shot to right, slicing toward the pesky pole down the line, and it's going to be out of here! Line down the right field line toward the pesky pole, leaping up, and that ball is gone! That's a home run! A lot of our Nesson team as well. High fly down the right field line, headed toward the pesky pole. That one tucked in, and that ball is going to be against the wall and into second base. Number retired, and now Rafael Devers trying to retire that baseball inside the pesky pole.
Welcome to another episode of the Pesky Podcast. This is episode 74. I'm your host, Ritt. With me, like always, is the OG George Sutherland and DC. So, guys, what's going on, man? Spring training has started for the Boston Red Sox. And, we had some surprises. We had some good moments. So what are you thinking with the Red Sox so far in spring training, DC?
Pitching looks pretty decent. It surprises me a lot better than I did last year at this point. That's probably what most excites me.
George, what's going on, man? What about you?
Yeah, I'm with DC. I mean, everything that I've seen off the mound looks really, really good. Giolito got touched up a little bit, but, the 4 runs scored because the next guy in gave up a granny, but that's, what are you going to do? It's spring training. But yeah, they look sharp. And you got to love that. Crawford had another good day today.
So let's sit there and talk, everybody, the biggest move technically this offseason for us was a trade, in my opinion, when we traded Chris Sale for Vaughn Grissom. And Grissom has went down with an injury. AC has stated that he's probably not going to make the opening day. So, man, that kind of opens up a little bit of play for, who can make the team, who's not going to make the team, since Grissom's going to start the season on the IL. So, George, what are your thoughts on that? And who do you think might be able to slide in that spot then to hold down the fort?
I think Valdez gets it. I think that Reyes will probably start, okay, and Valdez will be the backup. Although, the ability to have Reyes move around the infield is, pretty important to them. But I think Valdez is the one that benefits from Grissom's injury the most.
Okay, DC, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Obviously, don't forget, too, Rafaela. He can play second base if they need it. But I think it comes down to Reyes and Valdez for sure. Hopefully it's only a couple weeks and they can man the ship for that time or that point in time.
Yeah, I'm looking at myself. I think Rafaela might be the key person to benefit from it, because right now, if Grissom was not injured, there is a big cluster on who's going to make that opening day roster. You have Reyes, you have, people were mentioning Bobby Dahlbeck. AC even said that he deserves a shot. Then you have Valdez, you have Cedon Rafaela. It's a whole cluster. CJ Crone now, since he, just recently signed. So I'm going to say Reyes will be the guy at second base. I think that he will take over for those 2 weeks. I think Valdez will start the season down with the Woo Sox. And I think Rafaela will be the backup kind of utility guy, because his bat is looking really nice for spring training. Now, it is spring training, but, there's some promise there. And him being out in center field is also looking like really good. George, what are your thoughts on, so far Rafaela playing out there in center field for why Jaron Duran was actually taking some time off, from being sick and injured and stuff like that?
what Rafael does in center field doesn't surprise me. I mean, he's a superb defensive player, either at shortstop or in center field. I mean, he's talk about striking it lucky twice. I mean, he's gone out there and done it. He's shown patience at the plate. Yeah, he's playing hard to make the roster, and he's going to make it a very tough decision. I think he belongs in center field. I think defensively he's a better center fielder than Duran. I hold the two up together, and I can't argue against Rafael in center field. So, he's done everything right, and good for him.
DC, what are your thoughts on Rafael so far?
I mean, he's been killing it. I think, like George said, the biggest thing, he's been patient. The 4 walks is a pretty good indicator. He's seeing pitches a lot better, especially early in the season is huge. I would like to see him in center field over second base, and I think ultimately it ends up that way. The only thing that scares me is that if you keep him down past April or May 16th, you get that extra year control. I don't know exactly where head's at as far as that, but I say if he continues to do what he's doing now to, starting center fielder.
Yeah, it's May 16th.
I don't sit there. You that extra year of control, you got to throw it out the window if the bat's hot, because you can't sit there and just let him go down there and just to keep him for an extra year. If he's playing ball, if he's doing what he's supposed to, you got to bring him up to the big league. And I think Grissom's injury will actually help out a lot for him to be on that major league roster. So let's sit there and talk. Most impressive so far this spring training. So, George, what are your thoughts on what's going on, and who is impressing you the most?
I say it's Devers. He's done a good job going the other way. 2 bombs.
Opposite field too.
Oppo, yeah, and then he drove a double off the wall the same way on Saturday. He looks comfortable. He looks like I'm going to use everything in the pitcher gives me. And yesterday's game, he demonstrated the benefit of having Story back with Story's range. He made a great play on a ball to his right. Okay, He doesn't have to range to his left. He made a great play on a ball to his right and got him out by a whisker at first base. But he made the play. He looks trimmer, skinnier. I don't know. And he's also he looks like a man on a mission. So he's been the biggest surprise. He's kind of stepped up. As he did a couple of weeks ago when he opened his mouth and said, ownership knows what we need. So, let's go.
Yeah. One thing I got to agree with you on there, George, is, he looks more patient at the plate. That first opposite home run he took, he started off in an 0-2 count, and he fought his way back 10 pitches in before he hit that home run. And that's not Devers what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing him getting behind and getting in his head and striking out, or just a line drive. Like, that's what he's doing now is finding ways to adjust, finding ways to overcome what he's going against. So I really like that from Devers, and seeing him so far, and I know it's spring training and everything, but seeing him so far when he's hitting big hits, it's opposite field. I'm feeling a little more confident now. When I said that Devers is going to be the AL MVP this year, so I'm feeling a little more confident there. So DC, what are your so far spring training? It's been a little over a weekend. What are your thoughts on who's surprising you the most?
I mean, just for the lack of beating a dead horse, because you guys took my guy, but I was going to say Devers, but I'll ride that Rafaela train, or even pitching staff. I think they've, for Rafaela, he's a young guy. He knows he has to have a really, really good spring to make the team, and he's handling it so far, playing defense and on the offensive side. So I'd say probably him or the pitching staff, besides that one little blunder with Giolito, but it's spring training.
Oh, okay. I sit there and I do love Rafaela. Now, remember, DC, you and I last year was really like we were on Jarren Duran hard, leaving spring training to go play for Mexico. So all it takes is one small injury from Duvall. And if Rafaela does start down in AAA, he could easily sit there and come right back up and have a big impact like Jarren Duran did when Duvall went down last year. So I got to agree with you on that one. And the pitching staff, I'm sitting here thinking, he says Devers, you're saying Rafaela or the pitching staff. I'm like, who do I pick from the pitching staff? Whitlock he's locked in. Halkamania is running wild. Pavetta's doing his thing. Bayo's doing his thing. But one of the people that I'm going to go with that surprised me the most, and George, you and I talked about it a little bit on the round table, is a 19-year-old kid named Roman Anthony. He is going up against Major League.
Who's that?
Oh, DC.
He's killing us. He's going for the jugular.
But man, a 19-year-old kid going up against Major League pitching, and for him to do what he's done, very patient. He has more walks, I think, than hits so far. He's doing what he's shown in interviews. He's mature, way above 19 years old. George, in your time, 19 years old. You weren't probably that mature. I know I wasn't. DC, you might not have been that mature, but man, he's out here going against Major League pitching and looking like he's been doing it for years. So that is probably my biggest surprise, because it's one thing what he did last year on his short ride straight up almost to Portland against minor league pitching. But when you're going in there and you're facing major league pitchers, that's showing you something that he knows the game and he's doing his homework like he should. George?
Yeah. He gets up first couple of bats, he walks. I mean, like I said the other night, I said, what 19-year-old does that? They all, they're going to be aggressive. They're going to try to hit one out of the park and show they belong. He said, no, my job is to do whatever is best to help the team. And if you're not going to throw one over the plate, I'm not going to swing at it. So there's a maturity level that is far beyond where he should be at this stage in his career.
So now our next quick topic we're going to talk about, and DC and I went over back and forth about this one, because like DC said, it's kind of like beating a dead horse. But, Nightingale said a little while ago, I think maybe a week ago, that it was true that the Red Sox had offered Yamamoto a $300 million contract. And that is showing that, that was probably the guy they wanted, more than anybody else. So with them going and offering him 300, of course, we know he went out to LA. That's where he wanted to go altogether, all along. He wanted to go out to LA. He wanted to be with Ohtani. He wanted that atmosphere. But if we're willing to offer Yamamoto the $300 million, what is stopping us from offering? And we're in March 3rd right now. So what's stopping us from offering a contract like Montgomery or Snell for half that, 150? You know what I mean? So the DC, let's start with you, because you and I talked a little bit about this already.
I mean, I'm going to say it's age. I mean, I know 150 compared to 300 is a big difference, but I think Snell's still looking for 300. So he's obviously we're out of the question for him. Montgomery, I know, he's 31. You think of the deals that they gave David Price, which it did work out with a World Series ring, but at the back end of that, it wasn't that great. Chris Sale saga, as much as I would have done that over again, even if we had the chance at that point, not knowing what we knew now. But I'd say age is a huge factor, and they're just very fickle with who they want to give their money to.
George,
look, the Sox offered 300. He signed for 325 for 12 years. Okay, long-term deals these long-term deals, 10, 11, 12 years. The back end of those things are like having cement around your feet, and you're trying to tread water. Okay, so I don't have a problem. What I do have a problem with is I think that this was a setup from the beginning. That he really wanted to sign in LA, and he got the bidding price opened up. And as soon as as soon as the Dodgers decided to, play with funny money and defer, almost all of Ohtani's contract, they could do whatever the heck they wanted. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the free agent pitching that was available this offseason, you got Ohtani. He's going to come back next year, so that's like a double acquisition for the Dodgers. The true number one, and as I said the other night, he's never thrown a pitch in the majors, that counts. Everybody felt that he could be a number one, Yamamoto. After that, I mean, Montgomery's a mid-rotation guy. Blake Snell, I mean, between his two Cy Youngs, he has some pretty, not so great years. So, he's not a stud, So I think the Sox are trying to be wise because they're they're looking at it, okay, I can develop pitching, I can trade for it. I don't want to be having this huge contract hanging around my neck if I don't think it's going to work out for me. And, and they don't want to go they don't want to go back to the Dombrowski days, where, kill the farm system in the process. They're trying to.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I would. I'd go back any day right now.
Yeah, I
but
think there's a balance that has to be struck,
but maybe look what Dombrowski's doing down in Philly, and he's not tearing up the farm system down there to do it.
He's going to swoop in and get Montgomery. I bet you.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Like you look at Dombrowski, he brought over Harper, he's got Schwarber, like he's got pieces he keeps bringing in left and right. He knew Nolan didn't want to go anywhere.
Right.
Like that was, he got him, and he's not really working on on tearing apart the farm system like he did up here in Boston. So maybe, just maybe, he learned his lesson on how to structure a team a little better. And that's what he's doing down in Philly. And they're being very, very consistent now down there. But, man, it's to me, if you don't want to pay Montgomery and you don't want to pay Snell, then at least get Bayo some sort of contract extension. Because if you want young talent, and you want him around for a while, then you can offer a longer contract, 8 years for Bayo, So, George, what are your thoughts on if they're not going to sit there and bring in talent for high contract, long years, about maybe starting to solidify some of their players they have now, like Bayo, if pitching is the biggest problem they have?
I mean, I think that's the next step for them. And you've heard that they've already started. They already acknowledged the fact that they talked to him about it. He's open to it. I think he likes the fact that he's in Boston. Boston likes him. He's got a chance to work in the offseason with somebody like Pedro. And if you're a young pitcher, who wouldn't like to do that? We know that they made an offer to Casas, and Casas said no. So it's time for them to get serious. They if they want to be like the Braves, they got to act like the Braves. If you've got a good talent pool and they're coming up, get your money out there, buy out the arbitration years. In the end, it ends up saving you money. At some point they're going to hit the open market, but you've already gotten the best years out of them. So,
yeah, DC, what are your thoughts about maybe get a little more serious with Bayo and signing him for a longer term? If pitching's one of their problems that they have, and they don't want Bayo to walk in a couple years, maybe get serious with it now.
I mean, yeah, especially with their track record of letting people go, like, John Lester, Bogarts, do that now. Get it out of the way. I know they had an extension already signed with Bogarts, but you know what I mean? The only thing problem is that doesn't help us now, but I think it would definitely put them back in the graces of the Red Sox fans if they were to get something done with Casas or Bayo. I think it's definitely a number one priority at this point. You're not going to sign somebody else, out externally. You got to go internally.
So let's sit there and talk about, George, you brought up Pedro, and let's talk about a familiar face down there at spring training. I had to take a triple take when they showed him. John Lester back down there at spring training, and man, it kind of seems like Bailey and Breslow are concentrating like 80% of their time over on the pitching side, any way necessary. Pedro, Lester, working with their, within the means they have. So DC, what was your thoughts, when you seen, the old workhorse finally getting to come home where he never should have left in Boston?
Yeah, it should never went that way. Obviously cool to see him there helping out. Obviously no grudges are held, which is definitely hard on that side of the things. But I was surprised. Like you said, it should have never happened. It should have been years ago. He should have been helping out the young guys, but glad that it's finally here.
George?
Oh yeah, I thought it was great. That's the relationship that Breslow built with him when he was with the Cubs organization. I think that helped, break down the fence. As DC said, it never should have happened. And, you're right. But yeah, that was nice to see him there. And that's, he's an alumni. He's one of the alumni players that should be around every spring because he knows what it's like to win. And right now, the young players in this team need to know that. So,
yeah, I was happy when I seen him there because it shows that Breslow, Bailey, they're all taking it seriously to improve pitching, to improve this pitching staff. And you looking at the pitching staff that they put together on paper, it was absolutely not a World Series caliber pitching staff that the Boston Red Sox are used to the past 4 World Series that we won. You look at 04, you had Pedro, you had Lowe, you had Schilling, like you had Wake, like you had a pitching staff that was built for a World Series, and so on and so forth. And then you go and look at ours, and they could be very quietly putting together and working on stuff that could help them, improve from last year. Last year, injuries, prevented us from seeing what could have been. Injuries and Klubat that never should have pitched a game. I'll say this, that he should have retired before this year. Like he had absolutely nothing left in the tank, and it was an embarrassment to himself. But like we have Bayo, we've got Giolito, we've got Crawford, which Crawford today looked really well. Like he could be, a higher than a number 5 starter. He could be a 4, maybe a 3, if he keeps putting those pieces together and keeps getting, his opportunity that he deserves. So, who do you guys? We'll start with you, George. Which one of the 5 that you've seen in spring training has surprised you the most?
Surprised me?
Yeah.
Probably Whitlock. I didn't think that he could do it. But that's one A is Crawford. I mean, he had 3 innings, 2 hits, 4 strikeouts. Thank you very much. Did his job and did well. That's the kind of Crawford that this team needs. You go out there and just pound the zone and get it done. So, Whitlock, because I think everybody's a little worried about how fragile he can be. But yeah, probably flip a coin on that one. But yeah, I'd probably stick with Crawford because of the way he's come out so far this spring.
Okay, DC, what about you?
George is stealing all my answers, man. No, I'm going to agree with him. You saw Whitlock come in. He looked, in better shape, a little bit more bulked up. Just wondering how that translates to the field. He's been pitching lights out. And yeah, Crawford, man, he's the dark horse of that X factor of that rotation. If he has a good season, I think, that translates for the rest of the team.
Okay. I'm going to have to go with my favorite so far, Tanner Houck. Houkamania is running wild, and he's going out there and doing his job. I've been on record so many times saying that both Whitlock and Houck deserve to be in the bullpen, but they're fighting to make a case to not only Red Sox Nation, but AC, Breslow, Bailey, like all of them, that they deserve to be, or at least deserve to get a shot. But it's spring training for one, where they're still working on stuff, but it's also only 3 innings that they're pitching so far. It's usually when they get deeper into the game, that's when stuff starts to break down for them. So as much as I want to sit there and say that they so far deserve, let's see, when they stretch them out to the 5th inning, if they can still produce those numbers that they're putting up now. So, George?
Yeah, I mean, going back to your original point is that, last year's pitching staff just, majorly laid an egg. I said in my article today, I mean, Kluber just flat out didn't have it anymore. And you get 2 other guys, and, Sale and Paxton, who just, broke down, because they're Paxton trying to come off because he hadn't pitched in a couple of years. And, the way that Sale is now, you don't know. I mean, I want to see what the Braves media thinks of him the first time he goes on the DL. But, yeah, I mean, the pitching staff in general is like they're all focused. Okay, they're all like, okay, we're going to prove everybody wrong. We recognize that last year sucked. All right, so we're gonna go out and show you we can do it. And Huck's one of those guys. I mean, like I said when we were having the anniversary show, if he was the closer, he put that face on, and it's like he pitched like it was a great day for an axe murder, right?
and George, these are your words, baby.
Totally nasty. Oh, geez, here they go. Be totally nasty.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that sound the whole time.
So, but you're right though. So DC, George brought up Sale. You are, one of the biggest Sale guys I know. Well, what are you liking seeing him out there? Besides he's being in a Braves uniform, but he's doing exactly what he did last year in spring training for us. But let's see, further on down the line if he is 100% healthy. But what do you like from him so far? Seeing him out there,
I mean, it just looks like he's having fun. He's loose. He doesn't have all this pressure that self, inflicted pressure that he puts on himself. But he just looks like he's out there just throw and catch. Obviously, the last few years for him in Boston were terrible. Mentally, I'm sure we're draining. So, and he's throwing the ball. He's got the velocity. But like you said, it all depends if he stays healthy.
He doesn't have to be the lead dog on that staff either.
No.
He can sit in 3, even 4, and he can thrive in that. And he doesn't have to go out and put the tremendous amount of pressure on. He just set the pressure with him. I think he's his own worst enemy at times.
Yep.
You know, many times he willed himself to come back, and I don't think he does himself any favors when he does that. I think he's going to recognize that his frame and everything isn't going to stand up like a guy who's got a somewhat bigger body stature. Where
He's a skinny guy with a
he is a
violent
skinny
relief.
guy. Yeah, the way he whips the way that arm comes around like on a whip motion. I'm not a physician, but I can't imagine that's totally good for your physique.
Yeah.
Well, we when Sale was on the Red Sox, there was always that comparison between him and Whitlock. Whitlock does what Sale does, but on the opposite side, right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think, DC, this is going to be going to you, do you think seeing Whitlock bulk up a little bit, something that Sale possibly couldn't do you think that might actually might help him out from being, getting the injuries that we've seen Sale get from the left side?
I think to an extent, I think you can have too much muscle. I mean, I know he's not a pitcher, but you look at guys like Giancarlo Stanton, his knees are shot from all that weight he was running around with. Obviously, I know Garrett Whitlock's a pitcher. I think it would help to an extent, but obviously you don't want too much because that could also mess up mechanics, delivery, and stuff like that. But I think George, it's a good thing for what he does have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see too many muscle-bound pitchers for a reason, because it does. You're right, DC. It just throws off timing, the balance, and the whole 9 yards. There's a reason that guys like Tyler O'Neill aren't pitching. He's got the bodybuilder mentality, but there's something about having fluidity and emotion because of the way that your body reacts and everything moving as it's supposed to. You're not over accentuating one thing.
Yeah. So let's bring back one of our favorite segments. So let's bring back a little fair or foul. So how this works is I make sometimes the most obscure statement, and we go and say we agree with it, fair, or no, it's ridiculous, and we go foul. So let's start off with some AC comments, and this time here is, well, I didn't tell you guys the fair or foul question, so we're gonna play it a little bit. So AC said that Jarren Duran will be leading off opening day. So do you guys think Jarren Duran will be leading off, seeing so far what happens in spring, opening day? Let's start with you, DC. You think fair or foul?
I'd say fair. He just won't be starting center field.
Okay. So, George?
Fair, 100% with DC. He will not be in center field. He will lead off, and he will be playing left field.
Let me sit there and check something really quick. Because I want to sit there and see something quick. Because I have a second person depending. Oh, well, I will sit there and say fair just because we open up against Seattle and Castillo is probably their opening day starter and he's a righty, because I am kind of liking what I've been seeing with Tyler O'Neill leading off, and he's led off a couple games already for the Red Sox. And if there was going to be a lefty matchup, I could see Tyler O'Neill leading off. But either way, one of the Super Smash Brothers is going to be out there leading off for us. So I will also say fair. So the next question will be, Devers' defense will improve this year. Devers' defense playing third will improve this year. George?
Fair. Look, if Story stays healthy and plays shortstop most of the season, give him a couple of days off every now and then, his range will make Rafi a better third baseman. He doesn't have to, and they talked about this in the broadcast, a couple of times, and we've talked about it here. He's not going to have to worry about going to his left, right? And he struggles with that. He actually does a pretty good job going to his right. So with Story, he has this tremendous range. He doesn't have to go as much or far to ranging to get the ball. He should be better. And it's going to play to his strength, which is going to his right. So, yeah, absolutely.
DC, what about you?
I agree with everything you just said there. You said it so well, I don't need to say anything.
Okay. I sit there and I'm going to say fair also, just because, like I've been saying all along, Trevor Story's his defense is going to make the whole infield better overall, which will improve Devers at third base also. So next up for fair or foul, Tyler O'Neill will play more than 110 games in the outfield this season. More than 110 games in the outfield. DC?
I want to say that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
A little caveat there with the outfield. I'm gonna say fair. I'm gonna be optimistic. Say he doesn't get hurt. And I think Yoshida spends a lot of time in the DH, whereas O'Neill's gonna be going through each 3 outfielder spots. So I'm gonna go fair. I'm gonna manifest it.
Okay, George.
Yeah, you're right, DC. This is a tough one. Given his injuries and the fact that you're saying that he's got to stay not in the outfield and not in DH. He's in a 1-year deal. I say fair. I think he's going to do what he can to stay on the field, barring anything like catastrophic. But yeah, I think it's fair as well. Tough one.
Okay.
Really tough one.
I'm going to say foul. I think that outfield is so packed, it'll be too much of a rotation. So I'm going to be saying foul. You've got O'Neill, you got Rafaela possibly, Jaron Duran. It's Rep Snyder. You can't tell me Yoshida's not going to go out and play some outfield every now and then when someone needs to stay in the lineup. So I think he stays healthy. I think he puts up solid numbers, but I think there's going to be too many outfielders for him to stay out there for that amount of games playing the outfield. So next up on fair or foul, Roman Anthony makes MLB debut this year. So, DC, let's start with you.
I'll go fair. I think he tears it
Okay.
up. I think he gets a look. I don't know when. I think later in the summer, but I'll go fair.
Okay, George.
As much as I want to see him in Fenway and I want get him to do it maybe as a late season call-up, I'm going to say foul. I think they're going to start him at AA, make him earn his way to AAA, get him some comfort there. They're clogged in the outfield right now in terms of what they can do, and barring a trade, with some serious breakdown, if suddenly injuries hit it, he can make his appearance at Fenway faster than we thought. But I don't think so. I think they're going to try to hold him down.
I'm also I'm also going to go foul. I think next year is when we're going to see that outfield of Rafael, Duran, and Roman Anthony. I think that will be some sort of mixture of our outfield next year. You know, like you said, O'Neal is only is only on a 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think next year would definitely be the time that we see Roman Anthony to make his MLB debut. It might not be to start the season, but he will be up there sometime next year, I think. So I will say foul on that. Next up on fair or foul, let's go. I've got to say it. Cutter Crawford leads the team in wins. Cutter Crawford leads the team in wins. George, let's start with you.
Oh, geez, Ritt, you're not going to put a number in there?
No. That's where another episode when you know I predict Cutter Crawford leading the team in wins with 13 wins. But that, you know, that's not now. That's in a couple episodes from now.
Okay. We'll make sure we etch that in stone. So I say foul.
Okay.
I think the answer is going to be maybe Bayo, Pivetta, or Giolito. One of those three will do it, but it won't be Crawford.
Okay. DC, what about you?
Foul. Definitely foul. I think Bayo, Giolito, or even Pivetta. You know, I think Pivetta is that sweeper he added, you know, adds a different, you know, portion of his game. I think he's going to come out lights out. So I think one of those three get it before Crawford. But, hey, man, you weren't too far off last year.
I'm hoping for fantasy baseball wise, Cutter Crawford comes through for me. So, let's play another. This isn't Red Sox related, but possibly could be Red Sox related. Either Snell or Montgomery will still not be signed by opening day. Let's start with you, George. One of Montgomery or Snell will still not be signed by opening day.
Foul. I can't see either player allowing that to happen.
Okay.
I mean, and I would say Snell would probably push it the closest, but I seriously, I can't see either player starting that. You know, this isn't a hitter, you know, and despite what Boris says, and he's got workout facilities and everything else like that, no, I think he's done a huge disservice to both these guys. So yeah, foul, not happening.
Boris's comment on that, like, there's a difference between having facilities to work out in and actually going on up against live hitters. Like, that's completely different, ends of the spectrum there. Like, you can't expect to be using Boris's facilities and expect to be ready for opening day without going through any live batting practice or, you know, any in-game situations at all. That's and it gets major league talent too.
And this isn't like the post-lockout year back in the 90s where MLB and a couple of the agents put together a facility for a bunch of guys that were free agents and like all over the place down in Homestead, Florida. You know, I'm sorry, you know, guys, you know, pitchers like to know who the catchers that they're working with, right? So, foul. And again, is Boris doing a huge disservice to these two guys.
Yeah, DC, what are you thinking?
Foul. And they're both going to sign by the end of this week. Calling it.
Yeah, good call. I think so too. Yeah,
Montgomery to the Sox. Snell to the Giants.
I don't think Montgomery's coming to Boston. I think he ends up in either Philadelphia or back in Texas.
Yeah, I'm afraid too, but manifest, baby.
Well, DC, I'm ready in you with Jordan Montgomery. I already got I'm really in there with you for Jordan Montgomery, but I want him with the Red Sox. There's people out there on Twitter that says, "Oh, the AVV's not." Fuck you. You don't know nothing. So Montgomery's going to give us innings, help our bullpen. We're going to win games. So I'm going to say it's also foul. And I think Snell is going to fall first. And then I think Montgomery, because I sit there and think somehow, some way, this is the slowest tango I have ever seen in my entire life between a player and a team. And I think it's going to come down to the exact change on the check to where, the Red Sox and Montgomery, like they're going to be going back and forth of, 19 cents. Nope. I want 21 cents. No, we're gonna settle on 20 cents. Like they're gonna go down to pennies here, it seems, because one doesn't want to open up their purse, and the other one, has an agent that wants gold bars. So, because he has to get his fair share. And I'm honestly what do you guys think? How this looks to the other people that's represented by Boris? That Chapman, Bellinger, they were on partial contracts that they were even thought about. And still having these other two guys that Boris said, we're going to get you the world, but then they might not even get nowhere near that. So what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a bad look for Boris?
I think he's too big to fail. I don't think it means too much. He's still going to get people to sign into him. He's done this for how long? You know what I mean? I just don't think it's a big deal to the players.
George?
To some extent, I agree with you, DC. But boy, he his ego just keeps getting larger and larger. And the things he said about having the facilities and things like that. No person's greater than the game. I'm sorry, and you're an agent. You don't even put spikes on. If I was an up and coming star, and I looked at this and I'm going, well, the guy has history of getting contracts, but I'm looking for security. And if you look at like the Chapman deal, he's got opt-outs in year 1 and year 2. So if the Giants lay an egg after the first year, right, and he says, "Oh, I'm out of here," he's going to go through this again. And what's Boris going to promise him then? I don't know. This whole offseason's just been something incredible. $1 billion got spent right off the top, right? And then every team in Major League Baseball has kind of like, pushed away from the dinner table like everybody was serving lima beans. I mean, Jesus, it's just been horrible.
Yeah. Well, first off, George, I kind of like lima beans.
So do I, but I mean, most people don't.
I say they're actually my vegetable of choice. And second, me personally, if I had any talent to be a Major League Baseball player or any sport, I would want Ohtani's agent. Like, Ohtani worked hard, his agent, to be, find every loophole possible. Like, Ohtani signed for I'd have to total everything up, but it's got to be pretty close to what Boris's clients have signed for so far this offseason. Like, that's pretty crazy, especially for being a Boris client.
Yeah, I mean, totally different scenario there. I mean, $2 million salary, but he makes 50 mil a year in endorsements. So, plus for him, he's playing in California. He doesn't want the tax structure that they have out there against high income earners. So he's going to take that in deferral when he retires. Okay. I don't know what the rules are in Japan, but or wherever he decides to live, but I can guarantee it probably won't be California. So.
Yeah. So let's sit there and wrap up the last spare or foul question with the Red Sox will have under 84 wins this season. Under 84 wins. So, and this here is kind of where we're going to be seeing when we do our prediction show. So this is kind of the basis for it. So DC, let's start with you. The Red Sox will have under 84 wins.
I'm going to go foul. They're going to have over.
Okay.
I'm going to regret saying that.
Over by a couple, or because I remember what we talked about last year. You know,
I'd say they sit around 87, 88 wins for me right now. On a good year, okay. Everything goes right.
Okay, George.
I'm with DC, 86 to 88, somewhere in there. But you think we're spot on together in this one, DC.
Yeah. My number was right around there. I actually am saying third in the AL East still, and I'm saying they're vying for that second wild card spot. You know, who's to sit there and say that the Red Sox aren't in it come trade deadline, and then that's when they push some chips in and go out and get a Luzardo, you know, or a Dylan Cease.
Like, shit my pants.
Like maybe they want to sit there and see what it's like, you know, if this team can play these young guys and then go for it. So I'm right with you guys around the same number. So I'm gonna say, you know, foul there. So guys, man, spring training's coming up. You know, in a couple of weeks we'll be going back to 2 weeks. So some final thoughts. Let's go to you, George, first. Some final thoughts.
I think that, you know, all the things we talked about, you know, that have happened in spring training, there's a lot of good going on. I would like to see, you know, more of the regular bullpen trot out. See how, you know, make sure everybody's is up to date on that. I think that when they come back from the DR for those 2 games next weekend, you know, a lot of the minor leagues will disappear, and you'll see a much shorter bench, you know, with respect to that, and you get a more of an effect of how this team's really going to play. You know, spring training wins and losses, they mean nothing. I mean, last year everybody got excited when they went on a 10-game unbeaten streak at the beginning of the season, and everybody was like, "Oh, look at this." No, it doesn't mean anything. And yeah, there are a lot of things going right. Pitching that's the thing that's really been impressive. It's different. Okay, the guys are out there pitching with purpose. So yeah, that's the thing I'm excited to see.
Okay, DC, what about you? Some final and closing thoughts?
Just got that baseball back. You know, less than 2 weeks, 3 weeks until Dodgers Padres play. So yeah, excited to have baseball back. Pitching's been pretty decent. Interested to see where Montgomery and Snell go. But yeah, ready for some baseball. Ready to stay up until 10 or 1 a.m. the first night so I can watch Red Sox and probably pass out in the 5th inning.
Well, let's do it. Let's stream it live, DC.
Can't do that to people, bro.
I say so. Stream live to the last person standing, passing out. So, no, I'm sitting there and happy. Like DC said, baseball's back. Man, it's just you don't know what you got until it's gone, and it was gone for us, like in August, maybe late July last year. But I'm glad to sit there and watch some baseball. I'm glad to sit there and watch some of these minor league guys, you know, play ball, and they're the ones that are trying to fight another left-handed bullpen spot. You know what I mean? They're the ones that are going out there, you know, any chance they get, and trying to pitch with purpose. So I got to sit there and throw. You know, once again, our boy Theo Denlinger, you know, he's out there killing it so far in spring training, looking like the Viking he is. So, but guys, make sure you sit there and head on over to our YouTube page at BSEN617. make sure you subscribe. We've always got some content going up, whether it's the highlights of the game that is on our shorts page, or our creator Jut has thrown together some Boston Red Sox 2024 player previews, and those are written by the OG to my left, your left, my right, your left. Yeah, you get it. But yeah, they're written by George, and they're doing really well so far. That and I sit there and can't wait to see a few other ones that are getting ready to come out. But make sure you also head on over to our website. The QR code is right above DC. Bam. Get yourself one of the hottest shirts we have out. It's I got to stand up. The DWO, the Devers World Order. Red Sox for life on the back. Get your shirt while they last. So, but guys, man, sit there and enjoy doing this. We're back to the Sunday night spot. So, for DC, for the OG, and for myself, till next time on the Pesky Podcast.